How far can you take the concept of superhumans? We've seen with the growth of the MCU and the recent launch of the DCU that movies about superpowers are always in demand. They're usually grand in scale, and the enemies are usually world level threats. But what if your powers are just part of daily life? But this is where Scott Pilgrim vs. the World does something so unique. It brings the superhumans and their powers to the life of a college student that struggles to win his crush over. This is an appreciation of Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, and you're watching The Man of Movies. Firstly, let's look at what makes a superhero movie so compelling. Superhero movies are usually about individuals with superhuman abilities that use their powers to bring some form of justice to the world around them. Even though anomalies like Batman or Punisher, who do not have superpowers, exist, it is still about people who learn to be the ideal man, someone who can rise to the occasion and protect those in need. But when we see our main character, he is introduced as an insecure person who cannot get anything right in his life. He had just been dumped by his girlfriend, who was a popular singer, and he is stuck in a band that really sucks. Before she broke up with him, she would often say that his hair was getting shaggy, and this creates a deep insecurity in him. And in a quest to get over his relationship, Scott ends up dating a high schooler named Knives. We can see that at this point, the main character is more relatable than admirable, and this is when he meets Ramona Flowers, who awakens something in him. But to win her over, he would have to beat the League of Exes, and it is in defeating each one of them that Scott becomes a better person. Each one of these seven evil Exes represents at least one of the seven deadly sins, and in defeating each one, Scott improves as a man. Firstly, there's Mathew Patel, who represents the sin of pride. He charges into battle with dance moves and flashy outfits. He does not shy away from expressing himself. He was also very agitated by the fact that Scott did not read his threatening email. He clearly puts himself on a pedestal and demands respect, reflecting his fragile ego. This comes at a time when Scott's ego is also growing. He thought that having Ramona would be easy, but with this, he learns that he has to fight seriously for her. This was a great way to introduce the tournament style fighting game and also give us a glimpse into the potential Scott has within himself. He beats Matthew with his own strength but is overwhelmed by the task ahead of him. The second evil ex, named Lucas Lee, represents the sin of sloth. Lucas is a famous actor that is loved by many, men and women alike, but he is no hero in real life. He does not even have the determination to walk on his own and constantly uses a skateboard. He is also too lazy to fight Scott by himself and gives that job on to his stuntmen. He also displays very little passion towards playing this game. The same faults can be found in Scott. At this point, he was avoiding Knives intentionally because he cannot confront her and admit to her that he likes Ramona instead. And after beating him, we finally see that Scott is standing up and making some difficult choices. And this finally results in him breaking up with Knives. Here, Scott beats Lucas by tricking him into doing a dangerous skateboard trick, which results in him exploding. He also learns that he needs to use his head in battles and not go charging in, which means that now more than ever he has become self aware. The third foe he goes against is Todd Ingram, who represents the sin of gluttony. This man is a proud vegan who gains his powers from excessively controlling his diet, but this is something he cheats on, as he secretly enjoys the taste of meat. What's more is that Todd is dating Scott's ex-girlfriend, Envy Adams. Here Scott defeats Todd by making him drink half and half milk, which shows his hypocrisy. Here Scott too has to look back into his past and reconsider how he has been before. We understand that Scott has dated many girls in the past and have broken their hearts. Similar to Todd, Scott was never looking at his own flaws and claims moral high ground. He brands himself as a victim, but the reality is that Scott is just as selfishly gluttonous as Todd is. Following this, we see that he lets go of Envy Adams and can now finally focus on Ramona only. Then he fights Roxy, who represents the sin of lust. This is when Scott comes to the realization that Ramona had a sexual history with many individuals, one of them being a woman. Here Scott has to face the reality that Ramona also has a past. We understand that till now Ramona has not been completely open and has kept her vulnerabilities to herself. Here Ramona becomes more than just her beauty, and Scott realizes the person within it. When it comes to defeating Roxy, they have to work together, which changes up this movie from a movie about charming white knight to much more grounded relationship that takes effort from both sides. And he defeats her by hitting her in the weak spot behind her knees, which is a hilarious way to show how each person's weakness is unique to just themselves. Next, we have the Katayanagi twins, who represents both wrath and envy. The poster they leave for Scott is filled with exclamation marks, showing their extreme aggression and hatred towards him. The twins represent envy because they were once fighting for Ramona with each other. Here, both Scott and the twins give themselves up to wrath and envy. Here, music, which should be creative and innovative, becomes about aggression and dominance. They summon mythical beasts for destruction. Here, instead of going against their mindset, Scott learns to embrace his aggression. In doing so, he also receives an extra life, which earned him the chance to win Ramona back. Finally, we get to the seventh evil ex, Gideon Graves, who represents the sin of greed. Gideon, upon meeting Scott, immediately tries to sign a contract with his band. When he sees that Ramona is moving on, installs a chip in her head that forbids her from leaving him. He also has many nightclubs and is a music producer. He is shown as an evil rich man that proudly believes that everything he sees can be claimed and owned by him. He does not even like Ramona, but is repulsed by the thought of her moving on. When fighting him, Scott learns that he has to learn to let go. He cannot simply have Ramona because he wants her, and it is only in apologizing to Knives that he is finally able to be with Ramona. In the end, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World is an extremely stylistic movie that also carries with it the message of how to detach oneself from self-pity and improve themselves. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.